From Timcast.com, 2 explosions registered near Nord Stream pipelines, causing gas to leak in Baltic Sea. A senior Ukrainian official accused Russia of the explosions, calling them an act of terrorism. Now, you may have noticed, we titled this show U.S. Accused. And that's because online, what you're seeing pop up all over Twitter and on social media is a video of Joe Biden saying that the U.S. was going to take this action. I think it's obvious that Russia is being accused of doing this, but my issue right there is we could structure the story and frame it a certain way. We can say U.S. accused, which we chose to do. We could say Russia accused, which I feel kind of makes no sense. Or we could say both U.S. and Russia separately accused of engaging in sabotage. The issue I take with this is that if Russia were to have been the one that detonated some device blowing up the pipeline, it's a false flag attack. And I don't think that's the simple solution. I think it's more likely that we have this story right here. Check this out. This is from February 8th. If Russia invades Ukraine, there will be no Nord Stream 2, Biden says. I mean, he says it. And then he smirks when he's asked by a reporter, well, how would you do anything about it? You have no control. And he says, I promise you, there will be no Nord Stream pipeline. Then we learn about an operation. Baltops 22, U.S. Navy's 6th Fleet, was doing exercises with mine detection and mock explosives near Bornholm, Denmark, which is where the explosions happened. Now, no matter how you cut it, we got a conspiracy. Who did it? Why did they do it? I don't think it actually matters. The U.S., some people think they did it because Biden said he's basically said there would be no pipeline. But Russia, they could stage a false flag to try and boost morale because they're conscripting people and they need people willing and happy to fight. So which is it? I
think you made a good point that it's one of the more valuable assets. To destroy that wouldn't make a lot of sense. Like Pearl Harbor, whether or not you think it was a false flag, some people think it was in the case that they didn't know that they were going to get attacked in Pearl Harbor, but they let it happen anyway. They didn't know exactly where or when, but they had 5 aircraft carriers out of port, or a bunch of 4 of their 5 aircraft carriers. Something. If the aircraft carriers had been at Pearl Harbor and they had been sunk, Japan would have invaded San Francisco next. So the U.S. was ready for Pearl Harbor, whether or not it seemed like it.
Hawaii is decently far away, but I don't know about invading San Francisco.
Well, if we didn't have the aircraft carriers to defend, the Japanese would have controlled the Pacific after that battle.
Yeah.
So
also, with any event, you got to ask yourself who really benefits here. But even beyond going the speculation here, I think a lot of the other comments made by other prominent politicians absolutely matter here. The Danish prime minister said that it's, quote, hard to imagine that this is accidental. The Polish prime minister said that this was an act of sabotage. And now the former Ministry of Defense for Poland sent out a message on Twitter saying, thank you, USA, with a picture of course, the pipeline that, of course, busted off of Denmark. So there's a lot of crazy stuff happening. Ukraine is blaming Russia. Russia is blaming the West. Who's responsible here? We do not know, but this is going to guarantee a dark winter in Europe. Europe is already in a major energy crisis. This guarantees very severe problems ahead of us that are going to be very impactful for the average people, for the poorest people in Europe that are going to be devastated by this.
Who is this guy? It's Radek Sikorsky, sorry. And I believe he's a member of European Parliament, chairman, EU-USA delegation. I'm not sure exactly. I heard he's from Poland. Do you know who he is?
I think he's a former Minister of Defense. Is that?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. This guy right here, Radek Sikorsky, says, thank you, USA. He's verified on Twitter as a member of European Parliament.
Yeah, the USA is probably the one that did it. Or whoever's involved.
It's just... Look,
there's no way. I seriously doubt Russia. You might stage a false flag to get people to go to war, but when you're already in war, it's pretty. I mean, it's not off the impossible that you would stage a false flag to get people to go do something within the war, but
also specifically,
blow up your own freaking
There was
pipeline.
forewarning that this was going to happen. According to Reuters, the CIA was warning Berlin about the possibility on attacks on these pipelines the summer of this year. So the CIA knew this was happening. There was war games, as Tim was talking about. I think, again, you got to ask yourself, who does this benefit? This stops the possibility of another bargaining chips. This stops the possibility of negotiations. This stops the possibility of Europe having energy. This stops the possibility of what a lot of people are calling the Great Reset, that, of course, is only going to be pushed forward by this latest action.
This is the crazy thing, right? We've got Russia invading Ukraine, which means fertilizer shortages, food shortages. So naturally, what does the Netherlands do? They instruct their farmers to stop farming. Well, that makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it? Netherlands, I believe, is the second biggest exporter of food. It could be in the world. I might be wrong about that. and the farmers are being told to stop farming over climate change. Now you've got the Nord Stream pipeline was already shut down. There's Nord Stream 1 and 2. They were not delivering. Russia shut down deliveries in the beginning of September and said indefinitely. Why would Russia blow up a pipeline they've already cut off access to? So I suppose you can make the argument they want to be like, hey, look, we're being attacked. Quick, everybody come fight on our behalf. The U.S. bragged about it. But more importantly, look, no matter which way you cut it, there's a conspiracy here. Either it was the U.S., it was Russia, it was who knows, right? But there's also the dark winter, as Luke mentioned. This guarantees there will be no negotiating with Russia to reopen. Europe will not be able to be pressured into succumbing to the whims of Russia. Think about it this way. Winter comes. Pipeline is shut off. Germany says to Russia, we will do anything. We are freezing. We need the energy. And Russia says, stop the support for Ukraine. And they say, anything you say. Turns the switch. Gas flows back into Europe. Let's say the CIA or whoever, who knows, the U.S. blows up the pipeline or damages it to such a degree, it will not be able to provide resources. They can't up the pressure. They can't set the flow. It'll leak out into the Baltic. Now Germany will not be able to go to Russia and beg because Russia has nothing to offer. The only outcome now is they have to keep supporting the war.
Yeah. There's other pipelines too going from Russia into Europe. Some of them go from Russia to Turkey, but it's also important to note here that a lot of the other pipelines go through Ukraine. So it's in a battlefield right now. There's a lot of things at stake here. Timothy, what are you doing here?
He's got ideas, is what he's
What
got.
are you talking about? I wasn't saying anything. Go back to Luke.
Anyway, Andrew, what do you think? Who do you think's responsible here geopolitically? How do you think this is going to play out from here?
Is there something different about you?
The glasses. I'm telling you, it's the glasses.
Those are
I
nice.
can't
Andrew's
cannot put my
speechless.
finger on
It might
it.
be a
My
new
finger
shirt.
on it.
I'm just hypnotized
I know.
by
dye your
something.
hair or something?
I don't know.
Hey, my hair looks a little lighter.
Well, and look, guys, I know you all think Luke is handsome and beautiful, but
Thank you.
but Andrew,
Thank you.
what are your thoughts on this? I mean, we've been kind of going off. What do you think?
I've just been listening. It's very informative. I like all your takes. And well, look, we don't know how extensive the damage is. We don't know. I mean, I do agree that with Russia needing troops, that if they did do this, or if they didn't do this, they have Joe Biden basically saying, "I'm going to do it."
Well,
so right
Well, he
there,
said this
you
in
have
February.
right.
Well, he said there will be no Nord Stream 2.
right.
Yep.
They didn't this is a leak. You're right. We don't know the extent of the damage.
Right. We
But
don't know how
but
quickly it can be fixed either.
Right. But the spread is a kilometer wide. So we have this picture, right, of the leak. Mm-hmm. That's a kilometer.
Is it leaking gas?
Yes, those are bubbles. So here's a cool thing. Science lesson for all you nerds. When there is a release of gas rapidly, it breaks apart surface tension. Basically, there's no buoyancy because the water is being pushed apart. If a ship goes over it, it will just drop straight down like a hole.
Is it like air, gas? You said they shut
It's natural
They
gas.
shut it off. Oh, so there was like residual methane.
No,
in
they're
the
still
pipe?
in it, and the pressure drops. Like it's still pressurized, but
pumping?
now it's all leaking.
Yeah, fixing that thing sounds like an utter nightmare. We're dealing with tremendous pressure down below. I actually did a poll on my YouTube channel asking people, who do you think is really responsible for this explosion on the Nord Stream pipeline? 71% of people out of 10,000 voters voted and said that the United States did it. 12% said Russia did it. 5% said it was a legit accident, and 12% said other foreign countries did it. So obviously, a lot of people are thinking that it was not Russia who did this to themselves.
Well, maybe it was climate change.
That's it.
That's
Part
okay.
of this
You know
climate
what?
change thing is
The water temperature changed so fast that it caused a rapid expansion and contraction of the pipe, causing it to bend and burst.
And if those damn Republicans would have voted for climate change funding, this would have never happened.
Did you see that video of the woman in her car? And she's like, I just paid $94 for gas. $94. $94. I have to choose between food or gas. $94. And then she's ranting, and I'm for a while I'm going like, I'm with you, like I'm upset about this. And then she goes, the religious right did this. And then I was just like, well, hold on there a minute.
Say what?
I don't understand how you go from my gas is too expensive to Christians bad. I don't. I'm like, the religious right They're the ones saying drill, baby, drill. You know what I mean?
You guys think if we ceded this land to Russia, this eastern Ukraine, and the freeways and stuff, that they would stop invading?
Yes.
Or is it like a Neville Chamberlain thing where they gave Hitler a little bit of the Sudetenland and he kept
No,
going?
I've been saying this for a long time. I think that, and at this point, it's probably way too late to negotiate properly. But the Donbass, like, eastern Ukraine, they should have just said it was basically under Russian control anyway. So they might as well have just said just take it,
Crimea.
just take it, and that's it. And they probably would have, and then we won't go to NATO.
But there was a peace deal earlier this year where the Russians said, we won't take any of your land. You just don't sign up to NATO. You don't join the European Union. And the Ukrainians and the Russians were agreeing to this. And then Boris Johnson flew to Ukraine and said, no, you don't agree to the peace deal here. And then there would have been no succeeding to any land. Russia wouldn't have taken any additional land, and there would have been a truce. But of course, Western powers pushed against that.
Because we need to give them money. Like, how much are we in the hole now?
60 billion?
It's
or
more.
80 billion?
68 billion,
It's
I think.
stupid.
Hold on, another 12.
I gotta make a point. Ian, you said, is it going to be like Hitler in the Sudetenland? You're saying, right?
Yeah.
Like if we cede this land to Russia, they'll keep expanding.
Yeah, that's what they thought.
Of the two factions, Russia and NATO, which one's been expanding in Europe?
Exactly, NATO.
Exactly. So right now the issue is not comparing Putin to Hitler is just a political play.
Well, Putin also took Crimea, and there was also a lot of tensions and land grabs in Georgia. So there are
That's
some
true.
arguments
That's
that
true.
you could make there. Again, I'm not a fan of any government. We need to see these issues from both sides, from the arguments that are being made here, in order to try to push for a bigger resolution here. Because all we're seeing is escalation, 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 and the bargaining chip today was taken off the table. That was a major one that could have resolved a lot of these problems. That could have ended the war, that could have brought people cheap energy and would have helped people prosper during these very difficult times, which are being deliberately engineered, according to my own personal opinion, in order to push a larger agenda of suffering on the rest of the population.
Translation, you're saying that the United States did it.
No, I'm saying
Here's what
it could be even beyond that. It could be a clandestine organization outside of the United States that has an invested interest.
A rogue nation.
It could be a
A
corporation.
rogue intelligence
Somebody
agency.
call Tom Cruise.
Oh, it could be a rogue intelligence agency that could have an invested interest in saying, hey, well, we could sell a lot of weapons here. Hey, we could profit off of the Great Reset. Hey, we could make a lot of money off of freezing Europe.
And easily make it look like it was the U.S. because Biden says stupid things on TV.
Yeah, we're living in a world where multinational corporations have a lot more power than governments. And we have to understand this reality, especially when it comes to shaping world events, staging them, and of course, manipulating them in our current society.
Let's pull up this next story because here's what's being reported in the press. Daily Mail says, did Putin's frogmen blow up Europe's gas supplies? Western leaders blame deliberate sabotage after Nord Stream pipe from Russia ruptured off Sweden, causing 3,000-foot wide bubbles and sending prices spiking. 3 leaks were reported in Nord Stream 1 and 2 near the Danish islands last night. Pipelines are leaking gas from the Baltic. So we covered a lot of this. The question is, was it Moscow? They're claiming that it was his frogmen. But what they don't ever put in these stories is why would Russia blow up their own means of selling gas into Europe? I don't understand.
But also,
it
how
makes no
much
sense.
how much explosives would you need? Like, how much do you think
Not a
these
lot.
frogmen
Not a
can
lot.
carry? Really?
It's only a few inches of concrete, steel reinforced concrete, and then I think it's a 1.6 inch steel. So theoretically, a very small device could get the job done.
okay.
Yep. So here's my question. Prices are spiking. You know, there's a group of people that have been advocating for the stoppage of fossil fuels for a long time. And these are Western organizations. So I just think it's very strange that Joe Biden's whole agenda is around, he says we're going to end fossil fuels. He shuts down U.S. pipelines.
you.
Then he
we're
says-
gonna do it.
Then he says we're going to get rid of, there's going to be no Nord Stream pipeline. And I'm kind of like, could there be an element of the Great Reset? Because this is the point I'm trying to make. Why would the Netherlands tell their farmers to stop making food when the World Health Organization is estimating hundreds of millions will starve to death because of the war in Ukraine and because of COVID? Now is the time to tell the farmers in the Netherlands, you need to make more food. Now is the time to be doing everything possible to avoid nuclear war and to get energy into Europe when the prices are spiking. I mean, Germany is seeing inflation at like 45%. The sterling and the euro have dropped to dollar parity. But when you see those things happen, I can't help but say they're stopping the use of fossil fuels. They're telling farmers stop farming. And now the economic crisis has brought parity to the dollar, the pound, and the euro. That's the Great Reset wet dream. That Klaus Schwab is probably, let's just say he's enjoying himself, to put it mildly.
Energy is being limited. It's becoming artificially a scarcity because it will bring up economic upheaval that, of course, the central bankers are awaiting as an excuse to bring in their central banking digital currencies, which, of course, the many central banks, many Federal Reserves have announced today that they're, of course, pushing for, that they want, that, of course, is going to create also. Why isn't anyone taking me seriously? Why is everyone smiling when I'm talking?
Someone chatted, it's hard to take Luke seriously when he looks like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Why would they say that? I don't understand.
We got a Robin Williams.
Anyway,
Yeah.
what's going on here, I think, is deliberate. I think it's going to mean a lot of trouble for a lot of individuals, a lot of suffering. Stop laughing, Andrew. Eyes up here.
Oh my God.
And how this is going to play out is really not going to be in anyone's benefit.
I think you made a really good point that it could be corporations, dude.
Multinational corporations, unaccountable corporations, and things out of the military-industrial complex that are private entities that could get away with things that government agencies can't. So
I've been thinking if there is a global revolution, man, it's going to be against corporate like technocracy.
huh?
What?
Sledgehammer.
Technocracy?
We're playing charades. Sledgehammer.
Technocracy?
Yeah, international corporate technocracy is like my main fear. I'm not worried about the Russians. I'm not worried about the Chinese. I'm worried about governments colluding with multinational corporations. But I don't want technological slavery foisted on the people without them realizing it.
Let's pull up this map here, because this is what's going on here over in Europe. Russia's got a bunch of pipelines going into Europe, and they basically control the flow of natural gas. Gazprom has it all. It's not just Ukraine. They've got 2 pipelines going in. It looks like they have multiple pipelines going into Turkey. They come up back into Europe. They've got Transgas. There's Yamal Europe. There's the Northern Lights. And then Nord Stream is bringing it into Germany. Several of these pipelines are going into Germany. Nord Stream, it looks like, also connects the BBL into the UK. What I don't understand is Russia, I guess destroying the pipeline stops the flow of energy, but Russia's trying to sell this stuff into Europe. So I don't know, man. What's the outcome here? Is it World War III? Russia's going to blame the U.S. hands down.
How do you think this is going to play out, Andrew?
Well, I cover a lot of domestic stuff on my channel, so I'm really not the foreign policy expert like Joe Biden is. He knows what he's doing. He's fine.
He's good.
Everything's gonna be fine because Joe Biden is back. America's back.
So I saw these.
I'm sorry. I'm just so distracted by your damn shirt, Luke.
They're great shirts. They're great quality.
They're amazing shirts. They're amazing.
So I was watching. I was looking at some of the photos coming out of Florida. We got Hurricane Ian.
Yes.
Just ripping through, and already all the store shelves are completely barren. People went in and they bought everything up at the last minute. I look at that kind of stuff and I'm like, with what we're seeing now in Europe, this is. They're saying sabotage. Mm-hmm. People need to understand how serious this is. This is a direct act of war. Whoever did this, if it was some rogue group, okay, fine.
If in fact it wasn't an accident or some kind of flaw.
Accident, though?
I think it was 3 separate explosions, is what I read earlier.
But were they in 2 completely separate areas, or were they in
separate
the same
from each
area?
other?
2 areas and
But
2
all
different.
near.
I'm talking about area, not in the amount of time. Like there was one in 10 minutes later.
They were a few hours later, I believe it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
But were they in the
2 in the
same-
morning and then 5 in the morning?
But were they in the same vicinity?
No.
Okay.
They're close to each other enough
Oh, okay.
to where you're getting one big gas spread. But
Okay.
So we don't know. But it's in an area where the U.S. Navy was conducting weird operations. I'm just saying, outside of that, the reason I bring up the hurricane stuff and the supply loss of supplies is, I guess it all just comes back to, we can bring it back to the domestic policy stuff. People in big cities are going to be doomed if this really does escalate beyond what it is now, and it's looking like it. Europe's screwed, and all of these weird woke European people. Now, we're seeing Italy and we're seeing the right start to win again, but there's a lot of woke craziness in Europe, just like in the United States. What do you think is going to happen to these people? There's no gas for winter. They're not going to have food. They're not preparing for this. These people live the utmost luxury, like Capital City and Hunger Games, and they have no idea what's in store for them. And I'll say the same for people in the U.S. when the hurricane comes, and it's coming, or when the hurricane started coming, even Miami was getting hit, even though it's not in a direct path. Like there's flooding, there's a video of a sewer lid popping off. And people are rushing to stores at the last minute like, oh no, I don't know what to buy. These people have done no research on what they need to do to survive. Their skills are not suited for these kinds of disasters. And it seems like no matter what, there's just more and more disaster happening around the planet. You got escalation of war. What happens when this results in major economic collapse here in the US? Because seeing what happens to the pound and the euro, that's going to ripple across and hit us too. When these countries have no demand for US dollars, because actually, maybe the opposite will happen. Maybe the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline makes them desperate for oil and they have no choice but to buy US dollars from us. But their currency is now worthless. We're basically going to own Europe.
Yep, and if there ever was a way to create a cashless society, this would be it. And as we know, according to the World Economic Forum, they want to create a carbon social credit score. And I think a lot of this plays into it. And I think the financial calamity that we're seeing is deliberate. I think energy exploration, production has been deliberately brought down by a lot of these policies to make the weather better. But in reality, it's not making the weather better. It's actually causing more pollution in many instances, causing a lot of suffering. And again, you limit energy to the population, you limit prosperity of the population. So there's a correlation between both lack of energy, lack of prosperity for individuals to actually do things in life, to actually buy things in life, to travel places, to make and commence commerce. All of that, I think, is being directly targeted. And I think we're seeing the effects of that with the poorest people in the world becoming a lot poorer. I think that's only going to progress even further. I think the people in Europe are going to spend their savings on heating their homes, on trying to keep their businesses open if they can, because a lot of the times, many of these businesses will have to shut down because the operating costs, the taxes, the regulations, just simply having the heat on in your business will be too expensive for the average person to be even able to afford it.
No, you'll go to jail.
Exactly. Well, in
Switzerland?
Switzerland is even advertising saying, hey, if your neighbor is heating their home past 66 degrees, you better tell us, because you will face a major fine. You can even face jail time if you can't pay the fine
and you know what we
for daring
learned?
to heat your home.
You know what we learned from COVID? They'll do it.
You know what they do?
Your neighbors will rat you out.
In Canada, during World War I, there's propaganda where it's like, do not hoard. If you have more than one bag of flour, it's illegal, and they would come and they'd look for you and arrest you if you were hoarding. So I could, we got to watch out that they don't start hunting people down for hoarding food. Because people have been stocking up.
Well, with a crisis that's being engineered, with scarcity that's being engineered, you could get away with emergency protocols, emergency laws, emergency actions, because whenever you give government power during emergencies, eventually government will start creating emergencies. That's the train of thinking that I come from. That's my own personal opinion. And I think we saw a lot what happened with COVID that is very alarming, that did show a lot of people that didn't see an alternative point of view, that didn't question things, that just accepted it because it was the only thing that they saw. Social media went along with that. They censored certain ideas. They censored certain scientists. They censored individuals who were speaking out. Some of them were even arrested. Some of them were even debanked in places like Canada for daring to speak out against the current status quo, against the system that, of course, was telling people that they couldn't even go outside of their homes. Australia, you couldn't even go down the street. You couldn't walk away from your house. You would end up in a COVID camp, which is absolutely crazy.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.